Aloha and welcome to another episode of Sustainable Hawaii. I'm your host, Hunter Heaivilin, and we are joined today by Justine Espiritu, the coordinator of Greener Reader and co-manager of Libre Farms. So Justine, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate you coming down today.
Yeah.
So just to open up, Greener Reader, what is it? How does it operate? How did you get into it? And how does it speak towards the evolution of sustainability in the islands?
Okay, so Greener Reader is a book club that was initiated when I was an intern in the RISE program. It's a sustainability-themed book club, and the idea was just to keep the interns and folks in the community engaged and reading and engaged with each other. I started as an intern and have continued even after, because to me it just became this really great forum to have these discussions about sustainability. Having that kind of theme, it's you have so many topics and it's very broad, and having a book club that we meet consistently every month, it's kind of continuing that conversation, and we're able to see how everything is interconnected and linked together. And meeting up every month, we can source back to other books we've read and see the connectivity between everything.
So it's sort of a long-form discussion. And you mentioned RISE. What is that? Tell us
So RISE is a program that gives people entering the workforce paid internships, specifically in the field of sustainability. Kind of those two issues here in Hawaii.
And that's rewarding internships and sustainable employment,
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Put on by Kupu Hawaii.
Correct. Yeah.
And so you had been involved with RISE or when was that? Or?
Yeah, I became a RISE fellow in, I think, about 2010. And I started managing a grant related to clean transportation, working on a biodiesel project with the bus, as well as a diesel retrofit project. And so the book club also became a way, we have all these specific sectors that folks were working on, and it was another way to bring the interns together to talk about their different projects. And again, we have folks, and now that it's not so intern focused, we have other people in the community. And this idea, we're not just working in silos of our specific industries, but bringing those people together to talk about sustainability and what everyone's working on.
So it's a forum to sort of cross-pollinate ideas between, say, transportation and whatever sort of various sectors people are focused on. So is this
Correct.
all the sharing of academic literature, or what types of things are being read?
That's the great thing too. To me, it's kind of models like a grad school seminar class, but we also want to bring in, not just heavy fiction, depressing data and research, but also trying to bring in nonfiction, but we're also trying to bring in fiction as well. And science fiction, we want it to be fun, and we want to kind of get into other areas to get us thinking more creatively and critically about these issues, getting into, futuristic ideas, or, what the future is going to be like, and, be able to use that to think outside of the box and have these discussions of, what kind of solutions we can come up with and what folks are doing.
Well, that's sort of been the part of the notion of science fiction for a long time, is being able to offer some type of sort of critique of the modern day, or some forecasting of what we imagine could happen, but being able to do it in the veil of sort of an alternative reality, in a sense.
Exactly.
Not necessarily just a fantastical one, but one that's futuristic or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, it's great to have this forum that we go back and forth, because I think it's all important to read. The research and scientists, as well as that more futuristic look, or even tying like literature and fiction into it. Again, to just kind of mix it up and keep reading fun. For me, once I was out of school, I didn't have that obligation to be reading. But I think it is something that people want to be continuously doing in a way to continue your education and bring folks together.
So what were some of the crowd favorites that you guys have come across over the past few years?
A lot about food, just nutrition, different elements of that, and farming, urban agriculture, or
a lovely topic to
yeah.
always be discussing.
Yeah, that's a passionate one for me. Urban planning, environmental activism, and policy. It's also a great way to read the classics that we may have forgotten. Rachel Carson, Jane Jacobs.
Silent Spring.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so those are great. Transportation, we read Bicycle Diaries by David Byrne, again, bringing in a different, unique voice to talk about something relevant like transportation and biking. So the topics have varied.
So what's on the docket for this coming year? What are you guys reading now?
For February is Wendell Berry Month, and he's a favorite of mine right now. I love how he articulates the issues of food and how it relates to democracy. And
yeah, he's definitely got the farmer philosopher bit down pretty well. I mean, I think he runs a draft animal-based farm, has been a prolific writer for a long time, and offered some fairly cogent social critique from the perspective of a homesteader. That I don't know, I came across something recently where he was talking about, he was giving a speech somewhere, and come walking through the town, and there's some statue up, and it says, so-and-so, industrialist philanthropist. And he was like, no, sort of, and he kind of brought up the contradiction, or how the industrialist aspect facilitated the philanthropy, and so he's lauded as this philanthropist without necessarily much critique around the often extractive mechanisms through which industrialization occurs. So they're just a little taste of why I appreciate his work.
Yeah, and again, it shoots off into so many different topics that all come to the same issue of sustainability and kind of building the community you want to see.
And so with this month, Wendell Berry, so everybody's reading this whole book, or how did the division of labor? Or?
I have 3 or 4 essays selected, and then inviting others to tell us what your favorites are and distribute that as well. And then just kind of come together, because again, he's such a character in and of himself. Yeah. So, just trying to, we'll discuss his philosophy and his approach, and then get into some of his specific work to just talk about.
So you'll be drawing from the unsettling of America. I mean, I know a lot of his works tend to have sort of like shorter essays, so you're pulling out a few of those.
Right, yeah, I have Bringing It to the Table and What Are People For? So I'm trying to source from those 2.
Okay. And so with that, then everyone's assigned something, or I mean, how does this work? Everyone you have to read to show up? You got to pay to play?
The point, I want to get people reading, but also just want to get people to come and have discussions. A lot of times, so if folks don't read, I like to have a pretty thorough summary and some points or specific quotes, and I'll email those out to people to give them some material to come in with questions, to be a part of the discussion. So it's kind of twofold, just to bring people together and have that talk, and I don't think you need to have read to do that, but then it's also the more people reading, the better, just in general.
The more informed discussion.
Right.
But you can still get the Cliff Notes if you couldn't.
I will send you Cliff Notes.
You were crushed all month.
I send about 3. I start the month with kind of a summary of last month's meeting, introduce the new book. Middle of the month, I'll kind of send my summary, some quotes, then a couple reminders the day before, and just also trying to gather what other people got from it to just add to the discussion.
So how did you come to this idea, or how did it come about?
Again, from the RISE program, when Marguerite Harden was the director, I think we both just had a love for reading, and we both saw that people also had a love for it, but didn't make the time for it. So this idea of having this like structured schedule, and then we're all accountable to each other and having these due dates. And we've had, I think now it's 39 meetings in 48 months. And so just that idea of being really consistent, like
that is very
people
consistent.
Know that I will be there every meeting, and it's once a month, everyone has their different schedules and they're busy, but I think if they know I'm there every time, when it fits in their schedule, they'll come, and I'll keep them updated through the emails. If not, because I get a lot of people that haven't come yet, but they'll just say like, Justine, thank you for that email.
I think I'm on that list.
Yeah, so, and then that's rewarding to me I've given my book out to people and they read it, but they don't make it to the meeting. But that to me is a success right there, just getting people reading and just, thinking about these topics.
This is on a completely personal side note. How do you get your books back? How do you track that process? Or is it just like you give it out freely?
Yeah, they usually end up coming back to me.
All right. Well, as an avid reader myself, I've tried to devise various mechanisms by which I can track and reclaim and whatnot.
I'm trying to come up with a method now that we could donate the books to different public libraries. That was what I was trying. I recently presented at Honolulu Soup to try to get some funding, and again to try to incentivize people to read. I thought if I hand them the book, and then the idea is, like a lot of the more relevant or newer authors or releases are, one, prohibitively expensive or like not available at the public library. So if I had funding to bring those books into the community and then use them for the book club and then disperse them, that would be really great. And because I'm sick of like lugging around books. So I'd rather have it and then put it somewhere else.
And
perhaps
put it back into the commons.
Yeah, either, I thought of like the Proto Hub Library or Box Jelly. I really would like to utilize a public library, but then I don't know, I have like notes written all over and circles, and I don't know that they would appreciate
They're going to accept that, yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten fines for just like dog earing a page. I'm like, do they want my book with all
Your
the
full
notes?
highlighted chapters, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the demographic like, or how many people are showing up? And have you had folks that have been with you since the beginning, or is there a high turnover? Are there a few barnacles that you
we have a couple, probably like 3 or 4 core members that are just really excited about it. The Rise interns still kind of come and go. We get anywhere from, just the 3 or 4 core members some meetings, and sometimes up to 10 or 15.
Okay. And so the connection with Rise is this is essentially just your project at this point, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's still this relationship with Rise to feed their interns who are sort of
Right.
budding sustainability professionals.
Yeah, Rise has a portion of the program called sustainability. It's called S3, and it's an encouragement for the interns to be more engaged in the community. For example, they can go to specific conferences or that kind of networking event that really has them in the community. So Greener Reader is supposed to be, or could potentially be, something that they could participate in that counts towards that S3 credit, because again, it's being engaged and talking to other folks.
And is that what sort of gets you going about it, as the engagement strategy, or as a mechanism to sort of foster this discussion? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Again, like I said, people want to read, people want to have these discussions, but it doesn't always fit in their schedule, or they make the time for it. So having this my commitment, having this consistent space and forum, I think is welcoming for folks to, this is a space they can do that and read. And again, we're bringing in folks that do work on sustainability like on a daily basis. And it's great, I think, to bring them outside of their focus area. And also it attracts folks that aren't in that field at all. And I think this is a forum that they haven't been exposed to before.
Sort of like a soft entry.
Exactly, yeah. Again, like to me, it's kind of modeled after the grad school seminar class, and not everyone has gone through that. The idea you sit for a couple hours and talk about a book. And for me, I felt at the time I was in school, I was much more timid and not as engaged, and so I get to like relive it and create that environment that like
students forever.
Yeah, create just that comfortable environment for other people as well.
Nice. And so what got you interested in sustainability? How did you find yourself in this position, and then with Rise? And
yeah, I was in 2009, 2010, I was a grad student in the political science department at UH, and I was in a futures class, and there was a presentation about peak oil, and that's when sustainability was kind of just this buzzword, this general concept. And with peak oil, I really learned about Hawaii's very unique situation, being so isolated and so dependent on oil for transportation and bringing over food. And so then I really started to look at like what specifically I could work on or help with, and to me, food became the central issue. But then, so that kind of started my passion for helping out farmers, eventually accidentally starting my own farm, but then also, going through that then in the transportation sector as well. And that's, really opened my eyes to how interconnected all these issues when we talk about sustainability are. So now I've had these different paths or different projects that are very specific and different, but really they're all intertwined together.
It seems like I feel like there's a lot of folks in the sustainability realm that sort of the initial impetus for getting involved, for getting educated, often came from this sort of a reaction to the potential calamity of the world, whether that's peak oil or imported foods or very, just the whole mill of issues that the world faces. But I also feel like that there isn't like a dour cast over everything that we do. I feel like there's very much a opportunistic and a positive outlook that's imbued. Do you have that sense as well, that there's...
Yeah, I think people are motivated by this like problem you see and this issue, but yeah, I think that idea to learn more about it and to see the opportunity of, what needs to happen, where you get kind of creative and you sort of forge your own path with it. And I think sustainability, as we're trying to analyze these problems we kind of talked about, is opportunity for creating your own thing, or this like entrepreneurship idea, or just pursuing something you're passionate about and then turning that into a job.
Nice. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and hear a little bit more about the entrepreneurship you're involved with and the relationship of jobs and volunteerism.
Okay, this is ThinkTech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is
Really, somebody paid a lot of money for this
Hawaii,
1 minute commercial.
State of Clean Energy, 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to tell you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every
No, it's great.
Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO.
So yeah, we'll
here,
get into
and
the
co-host
transportation
Ray
bike
Starling
share.
here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16,
Multi-scale
but also
interactions and
stream
engagement.
live. So please come visit us.
And I'll probably try and
hear
get in
about
there
the
to-
latest in clean energy.
Okay,
Maybe I'll
Jim,
do
you've been
just
here. You
that
got any
broader.
comment on all this?
As important as energy
Way at the
is
end.
in all of our lives
I
today,
forgot what
this
the
is
other
a
question
great
was.
forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and
Yeah, no,
participate.
you're doing great.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think
getting
this is the
confused. I
greatest
didn't know if she
show
was gonna go
in
straight
the
through
energy
or what
world
the
here in
plan was.
Hawaii.
Yeah, it's in
You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on, like Jim Alberts. We appreciate your coming today.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, 4 to 5
Aloha.
p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.
All right, aloha and welcome back to Sustainable Hawaii. I'm your host, Hunter Heaivilin. Today we're talking about books, bikes, and the volunteer's heart. And we're joined by Justine Espiritu, the coordinator of Greener Reader and co-manager of Libre Farms.
Yeah, thanks.
We were just getting to hear a fair amount about the Greener Reader project and sort of beginning to discuss how people get engaged with sustainability and the multiple facets of it and translating passions into entrepreneurship. And I feel like there's kind of been a maturation of interest, at least in me personally. I feel like this has kind of happened if we look more a longer time scale, where there's sort of those early environmental notions of Silent Spring, and it's very much like the world is ending and we have messed it all up beyond repair. And I think that for me, that's how I got into it.
Right. That's interesting. I think, we see, that's what we talked about in our last book club meeting, this idea of, the society and the civilization as we know it, or the status quo kind of collapsing. And some folks are kind of looking forward to that. And they think, okay, cool, clean slate. I'm just going to sit back and watch it collapse. And I'm more interested in folks that still have a sense of it's useful to, make use of what we have right now and try our best with it and actively work towards building the community and the society that we want.
Yeah, I enjoy clothes and my iPad and public transportation and democracy, things like that.
Yeah.
That the potential dystopian futures might not afford.
Yeah, I think it's still worth participating in. I think we have that debate a lot, of our political system and our level of engagement with democracy. And, some people think it's pointless, but I think there's a lot of worth in still participating in that and having your voice heard and trying to, I think we really still do, even outside the political system, we have a lot of power to shape that, I've kind of learned that through some of my positions.
So with that initial concern over peak oil, I mean, you were already working from an engagement kind of platform, right? If you were doing your master's in political science, as you said. So was there this a pall over your outlook for a time, or was it sort of immediately into like actions and opportunities, or?
Yeah, immediately I guess I looked at the opportunity, and I thought of, okay, what the issue is with importing and what's like the central, or yeah, I guess, it was a little bit of the scary thing, I guess, now that I think about it. I did not, okay, if there's no more oil, they're going to stop bringing food, I'm going to get eaten. So I am going to make friends with some farmers.
Quite a progression of logic there.
Yeah, it's just cut to the chase. And that's when I started to befriend different farmers and just kind of support them, because I kind of thought these are the people that were going to be, crawling towards when there's no more food, and just to be kind of grateful, and just so I wanted. Then it just became a path of like curiosity of like, what is it like to be a farmer? What are they doing? What's their everyday? So I started helping out, volunteering with some farmers, and then again that ended up in a position of like accidental entrepreneurism, where I helped a couple farmers that were just, one was long established, one was just starting, but they didn't have the manpower or necessarily even enough product yet to join the farmers market. So I ended up acting as kind of like a distributor for them. So I would take both their product to the farmers market, and then I didn't know it, and there was my first business. And then eventually just trying to pursue more knowledge and learning about agriculture and farming, I joined the Go Farm program, which eventually led to me starting my own farm.
So, and that's Libre Farm.
That's Libre Farm.
What was
yeah.
what was the original project called, or your distributor
it was
role?
I named it Libre Bird.
Libre
So
Bird.
I've always
there's a lot of
this idea,
freedom.
Yeah, this
through and
idea of
through.
like freedom, and then which again is reading more Wendell Berry. It's like I had that idea, or I saw this connection, and then Wendell Berry articulates it really well for me. So now I just use Wendell Berry's words to to explain what I'm talking about.
And if people aren't unfamiliar with what some of those words might be, they can join Greener Reader, and
Join
this
Greener
month
Reader.
would be a good time to
Yeah.
jump in. So with Go Farm, when did you get involved with that? How does it operate?
Yeah, I joined Go Farm. I was part of the second cohort, which must have been 2012 now. And that, to me, is a program I really appreciate. Looking at the issue of agriculture in Hawaii, again, we want to be producing more food locally, but the reality isn't just landowners need to kick out Monsanto and give the land to folks that want to farm. We need to have that farm knowledge. So this program is a partnership between landowners, the ag programs at UH, the ag business programs with Stephen Chang. And so it's a training program where you take classes on like kind of the science behind it, but also you get a plot of land and you phase into it where gradually you get more and more. And so it's like you're getting that hands-on experience. And then you're also getting the business training, because I mean with farming specifically, there's just so many elements. You have to grow food, and then you have to make people buy it or like market it, and then just having your own business. So it's this great
Yeah, it's
program.
not an industry known for big profit margins, so I would imagine
Right.
the business planning aspect would be pretty critical.
Right.
And
yeah.
so there's, from my understanding, there's sort of a stepped process, right? There's the, something I always found interesting, the titling of it, the
Ag Curious.
Ag Curious.
Yes, I think that's our tagline, turning the ag curious into the ag producers. Because I think, they're reaching this, at this time, and with sustainability, and like it's a hot topic of, I want to grow food, I want to be a farmer, people are excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of work and a lot of different elements. And so this is a great program to kind of slowly let you see what that really entails,
Mhm.
and giving you the proper training.
Yeah, I've definitely found in my work, in my design work frequently, I would have clients that say, I want to grow all my own food. And then, a couple sessions in, it really morphs into, I think I actually want you to grow all my own food.
Yeah.
Which is an important thing for people to realize.
is,
And
yeah.
there's definitely a niche for all different types of work.
Yeah.
To
But then it's
happen,
great,
but-
those folks, that do put themselves in that situation to learn that.
Mhm.
Then even if they don't get into food production, I think they have a new appreciation for
Yeah.
it. And
You're more likely to respect what you know more about, I would say.
definitely.
You're more apt to do so.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so it goes ag curious, and then ag
Ag
exposure.
Curious, Ag Exposure, Ag 1, Ag Pro now.
Which is now the
And then Ag Incubator. And so the incubator portion is the optional part, which is where I'm at. Once you finish the year of schooling,
Mhm.
then you have an option. You present a business plan, and you can get a 2-year lease on the property in Waimanalo.
Nice.
So
And this
yeah,
is
that's
at
where
the
I'm at right
extension site in Waimanalo.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now you're farming on a third of an acre?
Yeah, we have a third of an acre.
And what are you guys producing? What are you doing with it? How's it going?
So it's going good. It's really exciting. Our model is the CSA model. So we're trying to grow like a diversity of stuff. We have eggplant, collards, kale, radish. We've had daikon, soybeans. Failed right now at cucumber and tomatoes, but still trying with that. Kohlrabi.
There's a lot of things that like to eat those.
Yeah, and so it's great. That's been our model to have this diversity. And then right now we have about 12 subscriptions with folks. We harvest on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and people have either weekly bags or every other week. And that's our focus right now. We'd also like to get into the farmers market, but like I said, when you're just starting and you don't know if you have the capacity in terms of production and labor, other folks that have graduated from the program and are in the same phase as us that are just starting, we're trying to form a co-op that we can kind of pool our resources and do those kind of things together in support of each other, which is really exciting too. You know, that's an element that came up that wasn't even a part of Go Farm. So it's great to see the initiative that we've taken from that and that has sprung up. So that's exciting.
Or a little emergent innovation.
Yeah, and again, you see these like creative projects to pursue and create.
And so you had mentioned a CSA model, and so that's community supported agriculture.
Correct.
I found, I was reading an article recently making mention of sort of a critique of, from my understanding, some of the original impetus of the notion of a CSA as community-supported agricultural systems was really where you've got people that are having a farm subscription where they're going to get their weekly, monthly, seasonal, whatever box of goods, but that there's usually also, there at least initially had been some role that they would also play in the production aspect of things, right? So it's you come in and work on the farm field day and you're weeding or you're watering or whatever sort of menial type task that you're given,
which is always helpful.
Which is
Don't downplay that.
Those are very useful. Those are the best kind to have other people do.
Yeah.
But that the way that it's really kind of formulated and that I think it's most frequently expressed currently is more as a direct marketing scheme. So it's not so much. Well, no, not a scheme in a negative sense, but it's a direct marketing opportunity.
Yes, and that is what I like about it. I like having that direct relationship with the customers. You know, I'm seeking out folks that I think would be interested, and it's not me selling to a grocery store. One, because I'm not even at that level yet. Libre Farm doesn't have that production level and that consistency, so that gives me a lot of flexibility, you know, working with folks directly. What I've also liked about it is I've formed a partnership with Bodhi Cafe on King Street, and so they're my drop-off and pickup location. So that's easy for me. I have one spot to go drop it off. I'll drop off 4 or 5 bags at a time, and then folks go in there and pick it up, which I think is the idea of now here it is like using my product food to form a partnership with other businesses in the community, and I like being able to like spread that.
And so what are these? This is like a weekly project?
Either weekly or every other week.
Okay. And what are these running?
$15 a bag, which and that's here's where we're like trying to work on the business side of what that value is, and we're going against what people folks want to get a good deal on food, but then having them value the fact that this is organically grown, I'm harvesting it that morning, packing it, washing it, packing it, and delivering it to you that day. I think there's a value that's hard to...
There's a reasonable premium.
Yeah, so kind of exploring that is interesting.
Nice. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hear a little bit more about Libre Farms and some of the other good works you're up to.
Thanks.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I have hosted a show called The Economy and You.
Sounds good.
The show plays every Wednesday at noon. And on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
All right, aloha and welcome back to Sustainable Hawaii. I'm your host, Hunter Heaivilin. We're here every Thursday, and this week we're talking about bikes, books, and the volunteer's heart. We're joined by Justine Espiritu, the coordinator of Greener Reader and co-manager of Libre Farms. And we've just been hearing a nice bit about the delicious fare that you're producing now, a little bit about where people can access it and sort of prices.
Yeah.
But that's, from my understanding, we're sort of running in scale here. So Greener Reader is a project that you volunteer your time to do, right? And then Libre Farm is now sort of a fledgling income, we could say?
No income, yeah. Well, sorry. No, it's a business, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But that is still sort of like my side, mine and my partner Dave's side project. That, again, because of just the things I've learned, and it just became really important. Food just became really important, and just became this natural progression of, I just felt it was important to try my hand at growing our own food, and then also being able to try to give that access to other folks. And so it's been really exciting to just have that be our own project.
So you've got sort of volunteer project and then side project, and then I'm assuming you work as well.
I do, yeah.
Okay, and in that, what are you focused on there?
So my work experience has been primarily in clean transportation and grant projects, nonprofits, as well as private company. So through transportation is not really a unique industry, but to me it's been unique in the sense that I'm working in those different realms. And
those different realms being sort of the different scales of working with a business versus grant funding versus
yeah, or
policy,
working with city and state agencies, working with private companies, nonprofits, and then also working with just grassroots level community activists, and trying to see the different ways change can happen and projects to try to move forward. And
what projects are you working on now?
Primarily bike share, which is really exciting,
Okay.
and also electric vehicles. Yeah.
And so with bike share, you had previously or are currently still working with the bike share processing
yeah.
Kailua?
Currently, yeah, the pilot project in Kailua
Yeah.
has concluded, so
Okay.
now I'm able to support and do some research for Bike Share Hawaii as they launch a statewide system. So that's really exciting to be working on this project that I feel you're not supposed to say this about anything, but it's like, to me, it's like a silver bullet. It like addresses so many different things.
A two-wheeled panacea.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to be a part of that.
Nice. So we're with that, with cycle track coming on, and I know there's been a lot of studies, and hopefully we'll get some, we've had Hawaii Bicycling League, Daniel Alexander came through and talked about some of their work. I think we're trying to
yeah,
get some
it's
other
great to
folks talk about
see.
bike sharing
So
here.
yeah, here at this project, Bike Share Hawaii is a nonprofit, and they're trying to launch this project, but it coincides as well with getting infrastructure, and and that's where you see the state and city involvement in kind of pushing these initiatives, or this idea of like cleaner, safer transportation, and you have HBL working as that community advocacy. And we have elements also, Cycle in Hawaii puts on the Ciclovias, where you're really demonstrating what safer, more complete streets can be. And it brings together so many different elements. We have to have, or it's great to have these bikes and make it a safer place for bikes, as well as cleaner transportation options. And that's where you have the electric vehicles.
Well, I found it interesting, as we were talking before the show, in preparation for it, that in your titling, or your selection of the titles that you use, that there is sort of this primacy on the things that you volunteer towards, more so than the things that are actually necessarily paying your bills. Even though they're all great works, but I feel like there's definitely a trend amongst change makers, and particularly younger folks that are involved in the sustainability field, where everyone's wearing multiple hats, but the one that we kind of keep on the most is most frequently a volunteer project of some sort. Have you experienced this as well with other friends, or?
Yeah, definitely. We have the job that pays the bills, and it's great to have a job that you are equally invested in and passionate about, but I think the projects that you sort of accidentally fall into, or that something has moved you to create something or initiate something, when that becomes your own thing, you're more invested and you just take more ownership of it. And that is what's really exciting to talk about and push forward. And that's kind of what book club and the farm has been. It's just completely like my baby. So it's exciting to share that with other people.
Well, I think there's an interesting aspect of millennials in general, where there's this considerable value placed on time. Right? So I've phrased it occasionally where I've long valued time over money, and that the freedoms that I am afforded come from how I choose to spend my time, more so than how I choose to spend money, because it's in much shorter supply than, say, time, right?
Yeah.
But there's a choice in that. And I think for a lot of folks in sustainability, in particular, I think that choice is often predicated because many of the actions that are, say, more sustainable, frequently can take more time, right? So just mobility, for example, right? So to drive down here is going to take far less time than, say, biking down here.
Yeah, or walking.
Or walking.
Yeah, I walked here.
And you walked, and I biked, so yeah, it was good. But
Yeah.
but it took, you know,
Yeah.
a little longer than if we had just
Right.
zipped in our
And
cars.
I think that's
or,
kind of a theme of in our society right now, that instantaneous and like short-term and efficiency, almost in the sense of not spending so much time, you
Mhm.
know.
and even not spending as much time with the work that we do focus on. I mean, I feel like many folks are involved with, like, there's a half-time or three-quarter time, and it's sort of these non-traditional structures of how we arrange our work lives, our professional lives, that ideally I think it would be neat to see, as has been done in a few other places, like working to create structures that support that. So it's like, how could you have a part-time position with, you know, opportunities to grow and increase, climb the career ladder and still have benefits, but also have it just be part-time or work 4 days a week or whatever it might be.
Right, having that flexibility to be able to be engaged in a variety of projects. I think, yeah, because also, again, with my diversity of interests, it's I haven't committed to like one full-time job. Both my jobs with electric vehicles as well as bike share is part-time. And it's been great, like you said, to have that flexibility to try to juggle everything I'm interested and passionate about instead of just picking one project to work on. And I see that with lots of our friends that have multiple gigs and projects.
Sort of like I forget exactly how it was phrased, something to the effect of like the millennial will work 10 jobs in their career. It's like, I feel like
Yeah.
most of our peers are working 4 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be 40
Yeah.
over the course of it all,
Yeah.
or something.
And
like
I think
that,
it's
but-
exciting because I think that's where you start to see that entrepreneurial spirit, you know, when you have your, I think most of these people that are juggling multiple jobs, it's one of them that they've started on their own. And again, that like just joy and investment of not just being someone's employee and working for someone else, but I think our work, the quality of our work is a lot better when we're more invested in it.
Yeah, I think you sort of offered a little story earlier about that with one of the jobs that you have, when it's like when you've put in that full day, the things you deliver, that people are just overwhelmed by what
Yeah.
you've created, because they understand that the time that you're investing into it is divided
Yeah.
amongst all these other projects that they
Yeah.
also believe
So
in.
then I think, your work as an employee gets valued greater
Yeah.
as well, when they can appreciate that your time is also valuable. You know, and when we're talking to you about that entry level positions and kind of like respect that you're garnered or not garnered. Because I think, again, we have this idea of you're 28 or 30 and you don't have a full-time job. You know, sometimes I feel like that, but I feel like the projects I'm working on, I more accomplished than if I did just have one full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to imagine. I had a childhood friend who at one point had brought up to my mother. It was like, oh yeah, something about Hunter getting it was like Hunter getting a 9 to 5. She literally laughed out loud. It was this sort of and which I sort of gave her a curious look, but as I've gotten further into my career, it feels like there's greater opportunities afforded by having this sort of diversity. It's not having all your eggs in one basket, and particularly
Exactly.
if you're working in nonprofit fields where it's grant-based, and so you kind of have to be juggling multiple things to stay afloat in the long term. And there's lean and thick times, but
Yeah.
that it sort of balances out, and that even in the lean periods, you're still in the things that are trying are still things that you've selected or things that you're pushing to bring about.
Yeah.
And so I think it creates a really neat ecosystem of interest and change, and especially as people start collaborating. And so have you found that that there are other beneficial collaborations that have sort of pushed the things that you're doing forward, or?
Just what comes to mind, I think, is that co-op that we're all forming together. With book club, with Greener Reader, I think there's opportunities, kind of what we discussed about encouraging greater engagement of policy, or we bring people together to talk about these issues, and then trying to where do we go from here, and that bringing different folks in and seeing what other projects people are. It's a great, I don't like to say networking, but it is a great way of bringing folks together to share what projects they're working on and having different things come from that.
So just increasing the opportunities for interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to paint a picture, to draw upon your political science, the future studies and the science fictions of a sustainable Hawaii and the ways that you're working towards that, I mean, what does a sustainable Hawaii look like to you, and what are the things, some of the key things that you think need to happen to bring us closer to that?
I think just consistency and constant engagement and activism in terms of speaking out and trying to propose suggestions, and for example with policy, or we have our experts in our fields with agriculture. I'd like to see more folks growing their own food or sourcing locally or biking, and I think the key to me is putting yourself in the situations, environments where you're learning, you're getting all of that information, you're aware of what's going on, rather than not being engaged and just focusing on your own thing. I think we all have our areas and our specialties, and I think we have a greater power when we bring that together. So keeping yourself open to the experiences of others and
sort of seeking synergies.
Yeah,
I could say,
I guess
to
that's a
borrow
good
an
way.
overused business term.
Yeah, just that participatory element in your community.
And so we've been speaking earlier about the sort of the atrocity that is in our political system, at least, right? So the sense of there being an atrocity of the sort of corruptions or maligned opportunity in our democratic system, but that the greater sort of failure is that if we then see that as a reason to not become engaged.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you feel like there are particular issues, I mean, since we're talking on policy, that this session in the legislature that you're really focused on, or that you're paying attention to, or that you think others would be important for them to know about?
Yeah, I mean, with agriculture and electric vehicles is kind of what I'm looking at right now. With electric vehicles, the state has the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, and we're looking to see more EVs on the road to reduce petroleum in transportation. And what we've kind of learned over the years is folks want to charge at home, but 60% of Hawaii lives in these condos or multi-unit dwelling. So we're trying to look at policy to address how we can encourage and
parking meters with your EV plug, then?
In like the shared use in the condos. So kind of getting creative and trying to explore that with agriculture, pesticide use, and kind of measuring and regulating that for folks that are in vulnerable areas. And I just think it's important to share your voice in that.
Well, thank you for sharing your voice with us today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
for
a
having me.
lovely discussion. I think running the gamut from books to farms to bikes and electric vehicles, and so thank you very, very much for coming down today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, join us here next week, Thursday, and every Thursday for Sustainable Hawaii, a show about making the transition from individual consumers with rights to being communities of producers with responsibilities. Aloha.